thank you very much for being here with us and appreciate it very much, both Dean and Diane.
Of jokes and a lot of games, and I'll have to tell you that even though Dean supports me, can't hear you. How do I? It's not working. Oh! I'm ready. It's on here. Dean supports me in everything that I do and usually helps me with the program. But since we wanted to establish a table for the farmyards, we decided to make tall risers and get the glass out of the way of farmyards. And so one day he was in the garage fooling around and came in with this magic wand. And he said, now, this is going to make you the fairy godmother, and I'm going to sit this one out. So I'll be pointing rather than picking up the glass or having him do so. And with that, we'll get into the first piece. This happens to be a Dubin piece that Dean wanted for many years, and just within the past couple of months, we have been able to buy it from an individual. It is not the rarest of the heavy iris, but it is, I think, the most beautiful. The white, of course, is more rare. You see marigold many times even in the malls and the shops. But it is a beautiful Dubin piece, we feel. The next piece is the little 6-inch peacock plate of Millersburg's. And I think I've looked for it probably 10 years, and each time we traveled to an auction, it seemed as though it was a scoop or not quite flat enough to be called a plate in my eyes, and so I would leave it. And within the past year, we've been able to buy this one, and I felt I really did find a good one after all that time, because Harold Wagner was at the auction, and he came over after I received the bid, and he said, I want you to know that you've waited long enough, and now you have the best one there is. So that made me feel good. The next piece is the Ohio Star in amethyst, and while it is not the rarest of the colors, the green is. It was one of our early pieces. It belonged to Bill Edwards at one time, and we've kept it. If we could ever find a nice green one, I'm sure we'd buy it. But it has some memories attached to it, so we keep it. This little piece is called Rose Bouquet, and it's made by Northwood. It is a stippled version. Some of them are stippled, some are not. The marigold version of it is seldom stippled. There is a record written that there is an amethyst one. I've not seen it, so I don't know whether it exists or not. It is the second of the scarcest bonbons. You just don't find very many of them. And a man by the name of John Britt told me a short time ago he thinks there probably are fewer than 12. The next piece is the famous Fenton thistle plate. And we've owned it for a while, and the story attached to that piece is that we had gone to local auctions for, years. Never found anything. But on a rainy night in January one year, Dean came home from work, and I said, is it worth driving 20 miles to see what's in that auction across town? Well, we better go. So when we got there, that plate was attached to 2 amethyst peacock and urn bowls, 8 ruffle bowls. And we were able to get all 3 pieces for $50. And of course, we sold 2 bowls for that amount and more. So this is the only free piece of glass that we've ever been able to obtain. The next piece is one of 4 in what we feel is a Northwood bonbon called Lotus Land. There's one in Texas, and there's one in Millersburg, and there's one in Imperial County, California, and one in our house. And there is also a marigold, which I will show you as we go along. So far as I know, there are no other colors, and feel that it is an extremely rare bonbon, and I might add is a point that I think those who have not noticed some of the beautiful bonbons, if you are a pattern collector, you really need to look at those, because if you don't own certain bonbons, you don't have the pattern for, on a great many of them, such as the Lotus Land and the Rose Bouquet, you don't have the pattern unless you buy the bonbon. So take a look at them. There are some beautiful ones out there. This is a plate that we bought. It's an amethyst electric peacocks, and this is for all the Robbies in the audience who think they can't live without their peacocks. I think Dean and I own 3, and this was one of our early pieces. I think probably in the first couple of years we gathered that up, and have kept it because I've never found one with quite the distinct coloration that one has. It's not rare, but it is quite beautiful, and of course, as you know, one of the most desirable patterns in Carnival glass. Now we'll move down to the amethyst, the 4 amethyst advertising pieces that we brought. The first one being a Utah liquor plate, and that was the first one found about 5 years ago. Since that time, people like John Resnick and Fred Roke and a few more have gone out and turned over rocks and found 4 more. So we have a total of 5 flat Utah liquor plates. They're very rare. The next one is an Ogden furniture plate, and that too is rare. There probably aren't a dozen of those. Both of those plates, the Utah and the Ogden, are made by Fenton. The next 2 plates are Northwood plates. They have the Northwood backing of basket weave. The Ballard is this one, Ballard of Merced, California. And I think there probably are a half a dozen of those, 6 or 8 maybe. The next one is Broker's flour. We don't know where Broker's flour existed, but it is a Northwood plate. The advertising plates have only been found in the amethyst color. I think as far as number is concerned, there might be a dozen of the Brokers, maybe not that many. The next piece came from the Brit sale just recently, and it was the piece that brought us across the country again. I think this is the 4th time already this year. But Dean had wanted one of those elk paperweights for a number of years, and many of them are tremendously damaged, glued back together. This one has a mend on one corner, about a 16th inch deep. But so far as number is concerned, in amethyst there are somewhere between 20 and 30, and all of the green ones are damaged. I think there maybe are 2 of those. The next piece is commemorative, the 2-eyed elk from the Don Doyle auction. I believe that was in '91. The ice cream shape supposedly is the most desirable shape, although the ruffle wouldn't be turned down, I'm sure. Marie McGee did the bidding for this one and brought that home from the Doyle auction for us. Now we'll move up to the white. This first tankard is the Oriental Poppy, made by Northwood, of course, and the ice blue and ice green are the most rare, and in some cases may be considered the most beautiful. But we were attracted to this one. If you'll notice this stretch effect around the top, it really is a gorgeous piece of white, and while maybe not as valuable as the other ice colors, we've kept it because we enjoy that top. It's just a beautiful stretch effect. The next little piece is the Gooseberry Interior Palm Beach Rose Bowl, made by U.S. Glass. They are extremely scarce to rare. You'll find them with the outside of the rim painted in silver, and we also have another one with the silver paint on the inside, which is curious. But it's a handsome little rose bowl in that the design covers it. Even under the collar base, you'll find design. The next little piece you'll see is called Corn Cruet. And it's interesting that Marie Capps owned the only one for many years, and hers had a stopper. Then at a San Diego flea market, one of the San Diego collectors turned this one up, minus a stopper. They are only found in white. Since that time, Fred Roke has found 2 more, and all of these have come out of California. Now, our stopper came sans the cats. The Resnicks were fooling around in a flea market over in Nevada a couple or 3 years ago and found the little stopper and gave it to Marie, thinking that her little bottle still needed the stopper. And she said, no, it doesn't, but I know where this needs to go. So it took me 2 years to get the stopper because she kept forgetting to send it to me. And I'd call her and I've got to do that, but she just wouldn't do it. However, the stopper is damaged a bit on the top, but since I have no replacement, I'll have to hang on to it. The next item is the beautiful. In fact, it's a classic piece, really, in design. The Cosmos and Cane tankard and tumbler by U.S. Glass. It is found in honey amber as well as the white. And Steve tried to sell us the honey amber for some time, and I said, no, we'll just wait for the white. So after he found it, he had to hang on to it for a year because that's his pet. He likes his pictures. And finally last year, he let us have it. But I had owned the tumbler waiting for that picture for about 5 years. Then we have what I consider to be the #1 rated bonbon. It's called Rose Bouquet, and Sharon Mordini is the one who named it. And I believe that bonbon is the one she placed the name on. We were able to secure it from a Gary Cooper auction a few years ago. Since that time, there have been a couple or 3 surface. I don't know how many there are. I have no idea. But that bonbon is found only in white, and the main difference in it and the rose wreath found by Fenton is that there is a full-blown rose in the center of the bonbon. So when you come up after a while, take a look at the full-blown rose. I think Sharon did a good job naming it. The next white piece is the Little Fishes, and this one came out of the Don Moore auction. This was a favorite piece of Don's. Of course, Little Fishes is found in blue and marigold. Is there a green one, John? No, I never have either. But it is a gorgeous piece in that it has a camphor effect. When you touch it, it feels a little rough, like the stretch glass. Or etching. It's more like an etching around the outer rim. And I fell in love with it. So how many there are, I don't know. It's the one that Don won the picture for Bill Edwards' book. Now we'll come back to the reds. We'll begin here with the Cherry Circles bonbon. This one is the one that we bought from John Britt a couple of years ago here at this convention. I'm told there are somewhere between 8 and 12 of those. Some are the 4-pinch side, some are card tray, and some are the ice cream shapes, such as this one. That same bonbon is found in blue and marigold, an occasional green, which is usually quite beautiful. And I'm not sure whether anybody's found a white one, but I would like to know about it if they do. This piece is a normal Dragon and Lotus, except that if all Dragon and Lotus looked like that, the price would be $10,000 a piece, I think. Because as far as I'm concerned, that is the prettiest piece of red glass I've ever seen. And the interesting story about it is that when we were at the bacon sale a year ago, there was one there which looked quite similar. It brought $32.50. And we knew and had seen this one, knew it would be coming up in the auction in Modesto in June. So we traveled rapidly and went across the coast thinking we could get that one for a little less. And a girl by the name of Sarah Valverde decided she'd like to have that. And so she drove the bid up, and then we had to pay $32.50 to get this one. We'll move over here to the large 2 flowers, the big 11-inch one, and that is red. It is the one which sold in Don Moore's auction. There are 2 of those. The other one belongs to the Stremmings. And last year at this convention, we shared side-by-side rooms, and so these 2 bowls were shown in displays in side-by-side rooms for the first time ever. But they are the only 2 in that shape. And while I don't feel that the iridescence is quite up to what is on the Dragon and Lotus, when there are only 2, you can't complain. This piece is, of course, the Stag and Holly, and that came out of the Bailey Hawk auction a few years ago, and felt it was fairly good red. We turned down several because felt they were too silvery, and I like my red to look red. They are fairly rare. I can't find that one has sold for a couple of years at auction, but I'm sure some have changed hands privately. As for the two large size, they're 10-inch size, Florentine vases in red. I believe now the count is up to 5 pairs. The only known 7.5 or 8-inch size, which is a smaller candlestick all around, is scaled smaller, belongs to the Reinhardts in Charleston, West Virginia, and they're just as beautiful as the large pairs. Now we move over to the only known cherry chain in the ice cream shape in red. It comes in various other colors in the same shape. Most of them are quite beautiful. There is one large flat white plate that's quite beautiful. But Dean bought that bowl, and I suppose we'll have it for a long, long time. It not only is rare, but it's beautiful. And that's the prerequisite for glass. No matter whether it's a costly piece or one that's a little more reasonable, it has to be beautiful and attractive before you want to buy it. The next piece is the 9-inch vintage, and I found out this evening that this once belonged to the Muggles. However, we bought it from Steve Morrow a few years ago, and I feel it's quite a beautiful piece, and I bet Charlie would like to have it back. We'll move up here to this beautiful blue, fanciful Dugan plate. This came out of the recent Brit sale, and I removed a piece that we had packed earlier to bring for the display to put that one in, because it's the best example of Dugan radium finish that you could ever possibly find. And a handsome pattern and a nice flat shape. That plate is also beautiful in white and peach opal. This piece of blue is one of 3 known primrose. This, of course, is a 6 ruffle made by Millersburg. The alaires have a 3-in-1 edge, and there is an ice cream shape, and I think that is a Rotundi house. Those are the only 3 known, and we're quite proud of that. The many stars came from a previous Brit sale in '91. The many stars is rare in blue. There, I think, are more Bernheimer advertising bowls in that same pattern than in the forward many stars. The little diamond point basket in blue we've owned for 4 or 5 years, and that, of course, is available in amethyst as well as marigold. We have marigold, but we needed a blue piece in here, so we brought the blue one. Here we have, the diamond point, I might add, is made by Northwood, Everyone Feels. I think it's probably a forerunner of the Northwood bushel basket, and there was much difficulty in getting that piece out of the bowl, and probably was abandoned for production purposes, and that's why we find so few today. This is a beautiful Fenton bowl in the rose tree pattern, and we bought that from Noreen Duran a few years ago. It's found also in marigold. It is one of the 10 Fenton rare bowls, and you will gather when I finish that I'm trying to get as many of those as I possibly can. It's amazing to me that with such beauty and such great design, why more weren't made in other colors. But so far, we just found the 2 colors in that pattern. The next piece is the only known cobalt blue Millersburg in the fruits and flowers. It's found in marigold and what Bill Edwards refers to as a honey amber. But I think in many cases, a honey amber with Millersburg is a weak marigold. That's just my opinion. But it is beautiful always in green and amethyst. This is the Rose Show variant with the cane back. It is flatter, and the roses are more subdued in your Rose Show variant than in the usual Rose Show pieces. This is not Renninger blue. This is true deep cobalt blue, and you find this. Now the vase up on top is the tree trunk from Northwood in blue. And we bought that many years ago at an Air Capital convention auction. We like our vases, and when we find one with good, strong color, we've always picked it up. And as I mentioned in an article just recently, I think this may be the year of vases. It's been a long time since we evolved away from bowls and plates to some other shape. But it is nice. It adds a good dimension to your other shapes to have a few vases. Now we have the Hattie in the flat plate. Marigold is not as costly nor as rare as it is in the amethyst. The green ones are quite nice if you can find a nice one with iridescence that's strong. But usually the marigold and the amber, which is quite rare, are the prettiest, I think. Amethyst is gorgeous too. So we had an opportunity to buy this, and I thought if we could ever find an amethyst one, we'll add that to the collection. Although with pattern collectors, you can't get stalled, so to speak, on gathering up too many in one pattern, because then you don't have time to look for a new pattern. Up at the top, beside the Hattie plate, we have one of 6 in the Millersburg Blackberry Wreath, 6-inch plates. And they're usually quite flat, and all of them that I've seen are quite beautiful. Marie, if I don't give the correct count, whisper. This bowl is one of 3 perfect ones known today. The one that Fred Roke found in the past few months and sold to Tom Burns, I see for sale in another room upstairs, unless it's sold today. This is the Grape and Cable fruit bowl from Fenton, and it has compliments of Los Angeles mail order, and then Los Angeles written again in the bowl. The 3 perfect ones were all in California. They've all been found out there. The 4th one known is dramatically glued together, and it's in the hands of a private individual, not a collector. This piece came from Don Moore's auction as well. It is one of 4 patterns found in Persian blue. And I'd like to gather up all the rest of those patterns. I am intrigued with that color. It seems to have been made for Australia or England. They've all come back from over in that direction. This is the one piece I'm going to pick up. This is the only known Marigold Lotus Land Bonbon. This was in the Moore auction, and I'm quite proud of that. If you find another one, I really would like to know about it. I like to keep count of certain pieces of glass. I think that it's helpful for all of us to know how many there are. This is one of 2 in the taller of 2 sizes in the Rosalind Compote Marigold. There is one known in amethyst, and by this time I'm sure you all know that the first known in blue has been found in California, and I've written about it in an article. I will have to say that it is most beautiful in the stem and the foot. It's true cobalt blue, but the color fades somewhat in the bowl section. But again, how can we complain? After all these years, we've found another only known. I brought what John Resnick would call a rare so what. And I read an article one time about this plate, and one more I'll show you later. This is, of course, the oval and round, which is usually found in a nice marigold bowl. But I've turned it over backwards so you can see the pattern. And just for fun, I put it there because there always are jokes about buying a piece of glass and turning it around backwards to look at. So this is the effect. It's not an expensive piece of glass, but it is very rare. I don't know how many there are. I'd like to know. If any of you have one, please let me know about it. The vase up on top is my pumpkin vase. The base of it is translucent, and so it's moonstone. The others on record, at least through auction sales, have been called marigold, so apparently you cannot see your finger through it. But I think the color on it is just spectacular, and we picked that up over in Las Vegas last December in a shop. The tall vase has the number 270, I'm told by George Thomas, in the old Imperial catalog. It is called Morning Glory in our terminology, and you'll find it in amethyst and in green, as well as the marigold. It is the funeral size in that particular vase. This little bonbon is one of 5 or 6 known in a Night Stars, Millersburg. And of course those are beautiful and rare as well in amethyst and in green. This is a an amber homestead plate, which is usually quite beautiful when you find one. It is more rare in amber and in green, I believe. The green ones are not usually as pretty as the amber and the amethyst. The amethyst is always spectacular. This is our only piece of amber. It isn't that we don't like it, it's just that we've just never been able to pick up a pattern at whatever time we were looking. So perhaps in the future we'll find some more. This is another of Fenton's 10-year bowls called Dragon's Tongue. And I don't know how many there are, probably less than a dozen. This one came from the Bullard auction last summer at Lexington. The Bullards of California have been buying glass for a number of years, and some of their collection was quite beautiful. We had looked at a couple of others, but this one seemed to have the best iridescence. Fenton also made a shade called Dragon's Tongue. The chop plate is one of 4 known in the Millersburg Peacock at Urn, and that one too came out of the Bailey Hawk auction. That plate is available also in amethyst. Now we'll move into ice green, and there is the wishbone, which is touted to be quite rare, although there seem to have been a few surfaced in recent years. It is quite beautiful in the ice green and is as rare as any of the other colors. You'll find that same bowl in white, amethyst, and the usual Northwood colors. This little piece of ice green in fruits and flowers was rare for a while, although in the last couple of years we've seen 2 or 3 surface. It'll run around $800, which is a fair price for a nice piece of ice green. It's rather unusual in its size. Then up until the time Heart of America published their recent bulletin, I thought we had the only one in this ice green stippled rays compote from Fenton. But I noticed that a gentleman has one for sale for, I believe it's $275 or $375. So now I know that there is another one, so there's bound to be more. That little compote looks like stretch glass, and yet it is a perfect example of stippled rays. It is rather unusual. This is a piece of daisy and plume with a raspberry interior, and it's interesting that most of those, I think there probably are 6 or 8, most of those have come back from Australia or filtered down through Canada. Ruth Shinestal wrote an article about those not too many years ago, and it's interesting that if there is damage on that piece, no matter what color, it's usually along the outer edge of the feet, which would lead you to believe that rather than damage per se, there was much difficulty in getting the piece out of the mold. This one has slight damage in one place, but it's a beautiful piece of glass, and it has a place in our collection. This is one of, I believe, 4 or 5 now of the 16-inch Vaseline vases in the thin rib. They're quite beautiful, and I found this one in San Diego with a grouping of flowers and water standing in it as we walked into a shop one afternoon, and the Vaseline just jumped off. So it's been added to the collection. The next piece of Vaseline is one of 6 in the Whirling Leaves, and it's quite beautiful with a black light on it, as is the Cosmos and Kane plate. Now that may be a rare so what because the pattern is on the back of that one also. Some old written literature that Don Moore wrote calls for the fact that there is 1 white known and 1 marigold. But now we have a Vaseline because it does glow. This is Vaseline or lime green opal in the Fenton strawberry bonbon. And they're quite beautiful in most any color. There was a beautiful little red one sold today. And even with the amber on it, it still looked red unless you held it to the light. Even the marigold ones are quite beautiful. And sometimes the marigold is found with a strawberry tucked up underneath on the collar base, which adds to the excitement. This piece of Vaseline is the strawberry wreath from Millersburg. and it's one of 4 known in what we call the blank shape. This is the shape as it comes directly from the mold before any flaring or shaping takes place. This is a piece of Vaseline, also in strawberry wreath. However, the interesting aspect of this piece is that there is a leaf on there that is unstippled. And so I would assume that this is a forerunner of the compotes that we buy now, perhaps test pieces, because this one, as you'll notice, is almost tricorner in shape. There are 2 in marigold known, and both of those are ruffled, as we see our compotes today. But there had to be an adjustment of the mold after these sample pieces were made, because they are the only ones known, except for the green one that I will point out as we move on. Those 4 pieces are the only ones that anyone knows about. The next compote is the acorn in Vaseline, and that too came from the 91 Brit sale. There are 3 of those known, and as far as I know, they all look pretty much the same. This one has no damage, and I'm not sure about the others. John? Don't know either. We'll back up here a little bit and include what I've been told for several years is the only known daisy wreath plate in the blue opal. And it is a scoop plate, certainly, but it's not ruffled as most of the bowls are. The next blue opal piece is the smooth raise, and it's quite beautiful. There is no scratching on it. I believe there are not very many of those known. While it's not expensive, it is quite desirable and a beautiful piece, and a different pattern for us. This is a very pale ice blue elegance plate that we've owned for quite a few years, and in the early years it was the only known. Since that time, there have been 2 others surface, one sold recently, which is perfect as this one is. There is one known in Connecticut which has 3 damaged places on it. There are 2 marigold examples in that pattern, and beyond that we don't know of any other colors. It's a molded piece rather than designed as most of our Carnival glass is. It has a small domed foot in the center of the bottom, and I don't know, just judging from the way it looks, it appears more crystal than anything else, and perhaps it's Cambridge or an experimental piece from Fostoria, but it doesn't look like the Northwood ice blue. Then we have the ice blue good luck bowl, which is always a desirable piece. This came from a private collection in San Diego. There was a beautiful one sold today out of the Osmond collection, and most of those have filtered back from foreign soil. This, of course, is another example that's sold today in the ice blue peacock and ice cream bowl. Most of the ones in pastel ice blue are quite flat. Some of the ice green ones are a little more cupped. But the intriguing factor of that pattern for me has always been that if you'll notice, the bottom of the design is a little farther in from the corner or the edge of the bowl than it is at the top. It's as if the plunger didn't go down quite in the center of that piece of glass, and it's the only one that I can think of with that effect. We had to put in a piece of ice blue Fenton, and that little basket is a very good example. They're quite scarce. Baskets of all kinds arise all the time for us to buy, but it is difficult to find a nice blue one. The little ice blue Cindria vase came out of a private collection in San Diego in the past year or so, and so we've added that to our grouping. We tried to bring something for everyone rather than come with all plates or all one kind. Therefore, we've called this a plethora of patterns. This little relish dish is in the Northwood Poppy, and I had told Tom Mordini I'd like to have a very nice one if he ever found one. So at a convention one year, he handed me that one, and I've not found one to surpass it since, so I think Tom knows my taste. The next piece is one of 2 or 3 known in the square nesting swan from Millersburg. That bowl, of course, is found in the usual Millersburg colors, amethyst and marigold. But two of us took the square bowls for a display in Wichita for the Air Capital Convention a year or so ago, and at that time we looked at each other and were surprised to see the other one. Since then, Jim Seek says he thinks he knows where there's another one. This is a tracery bonbon in square shape. It's absolutely spectacular, and I'm most gratified to have it. We've traveled distances over the years to get one, and they were not what we wanted. So last year at this convention, Big Bill Richards met me in the hallway, and he said, "Do you have a tracery bonbon? If you don't, I have one for you." He couldn't have brought me anything any more beautiful. I don't know whether the square shape or the oval are more scarce. Do you know, Marie? No. They're found also in the amethyst, and both are very, very desirable. There just aren't enough of those bonbons to go around for the requirement. This is the other absentee leaf strawberry wreath compote in what I call a rose bowl shape. It's actually tucked in a little at the top. And that's a piece that Mordini sold to us a few months ago. The peacock at the fountain orange bowl has a long-awaited story. We visited the Bacons in Pennsylvania 10 years ago. And if you have ever visited there and gone down to the basement and had Earl turn the lights on, it's like fireworks going off in all directions. He collected gorgeous glass. And at that time, he had all the known colors lined up on a top shelf down there. And I said to Dean, "That's the bowl I want." So it took 10 years to get it. So sometimes a piece is worth the wait. It is rare in green. It's more rare in aqua opal. I think there are 2 or 3 of the aqua opals. But we're happy with the green. The marigold ones are always beautiful. And there was a spectacular cobalt blue one sold a few years ago at the Modesto convention sale for $2,000. It was an unheard of price. But nobody would ever be able to surpass that bowl for blue. It was just gorgeous. This is a humidor that Cecil would like to take home. One of these days, maybe I'll let her have it. It's out of the binding sale, and Marie and several of us have worked on research for the Millersburg book, which will be coming out this year. And we have discovered that there are about 8 of the marigold, there are 6 of the green, and only 4 of the amethyst. Some in each color are damaged. This one happens to be a perfect one. This is another rare plate. When we bought that one from Mordini, it's the cherry chain in green for Fenn. Mordini said this is one of 2, but since then I understand there is one more, and I think it's down in Texas. This is our electric green poppy show bowl. We have a beautiful plate in that color, but since we don't have a rose show plate, I wanted the 2 bowls to complement one another. So we brought the 2 rose show and poppy show in green, and one of these days I'd like to display all 4, the 2 plates and the 2 bowls. I happen to like green, as you might have imagined, but I like electric green. This vase also came from the Brit sale, and we paid quite a sum for that, but it is a gorgeous green corn vase, and I'm quite proud of it. All the corn vases are beautiful, but I think that unless you want to collect all of a pattern, every color that's known, you do have to decide which one you really want. So a long time ago I decided that if I ever could find a beautiful green one, that would be my selection. But when you collect this way, it takes a while. You can't just go to every sale and pick up a piece of glass. Today I could get nothing. This is, of course, the coveted rose column vase from Millersburg in green. The Muckles bought a beautiful amethyst one at the Brit sale. But since we already owned a green one and are happy with it, we didn't give Charlie any problem with his bidding. This is the Hobstar and Feather Rose giant rose bowl, and that too came out of the Bacon sale. The first time I ever saw a beautiful one, some of them are very, very dark and not colorful at all. But the Whitleys have a gorgeous one, and I think it must be the only one in the country that holds his golf balls. It's full of golf balls. This, too, is a very rare bowl from Fenton. It's the strawberry and dragon. And in the green, it's pretty hard to find with solid coloration all over. There's a variation in some of the bowls. There is no color in the center. The blue ones usually are pretty good. That one that sold today was a beautiful one. But in blue and green, they're quite desirable and usually come at a high price. The marigold ones are usually beautiful, but there are a few more of them, and so the price is not so high. Then finally, we have the hobnail back, large size vintage. And there is one small green one that was in the recent Brit sale. And it brought a really high sum of money, and so we decided to be happy with this one because we don't usually collect more than one or two in the same pattern. Now then, Cecil, if you'll come and help me. We're going to have a discussion, I hope, that enlightens all of us as to just how many of these farmyards there are. I know that some of you in here came to this convention and left yours in your cabinet. So we need to have that count at least. And Darrell has a tally of some 125 to 150 total that he's had response from in his quest for information on these bowls. So as we go along here, if each of you will tell us a short story about how you got yours, or if you know someone else who has one, then we can tell how many are missing, and maybe it will help Darrell. I can't remember who brought this one in. What can you tell us about yours?
Mark Deal. We have about 14 of them. 14.
He had 14 at the time you bought this one.
No, he had 14. He had about 3 left, and I bought this one.
And how long have you owned this one?
About a year.
And how about the next one? What can you tell us about it?
Well, that farmyard bowls came from the Ralph Mullins auction back in 1981. At that auction, we did not buy it. We were the backup bidder. We were fortunate enough to ride to the airport with that bowl. Don Weaver from San Angelo, Texas, bought the bowl, and we told Don and Glenna that if they ever sold it, well, we would love to have it. In the meantime, the one next to it is a 6-ruffle light purple one, and we thought we would never get Don and Glenna's, so we went ahead and just had to have a farmyard bowl, and we bought that at a Tom Burns auction in probably about 1985. And shortly after that, Don and Glenna had their auction in Lawrence, Kansas. And needless to say that I paid a lot more for the square one at Don and Glenna's auction. I should have probably bid more first time around.
We're all smarter in retrospect, aren't we? And then, Cecil, we come into your 3 beauties.
That's the peach, the only known peach opal farmyard bowl. We bought it from Roebuck in about 79, I guess. It had been sold to him by Mr. Carruthers, I believe. And we went up to North Carolina. We flew up one Christmas to get a Frolic Bear tumbler. And it was the only one known at the time. And we came back with the peach opal farmyard bowl, the Frolic Bear tumbler, and the green people's face. Does anybody know of another peach opal farmyard bowl?
Well, she didn't really say. We went up there to Cadillac automobile and come back on a Greyhound bus.
Roland and Don do that all the time when they go to Vegas.
The next one is the one that was advertised for the Hill auction back in '83. It was the cover on the cover page, and it was discussion about that, and most people call it the farmyard lobo, but no matter what you call it, it's still the only one that we know of. Does anybody know of one of those?
It's like an ice cream bowl. It's like an
It does look like an ice cream bowl, but it's a very shallow
Yeah.
ice cream bowl. That shows the pattern nicely. And as I say, we got that at the Hill auction in '83. And where did it come from before then, Floyd?
I think Mr. Leonard had the story, or somebody was telling us that O.J. Olson bought that for $400 when everything else was selling for $40.
Right. When the other farmyards were selling for $40, $50, O.J. Olson paid $400 for that.
But the McCaslins had it for many years, and Mr. Coffey's out this long ago. And the McCaslins sold into the hills, and we got the hill auction.
The next one is the square green farmyard bowls. And as far as we know, there are 3 or 4 green ones known. How does that, do any of you know of any other green ones?
There are other square farmyard owners in here. Are any of yours green, or are they all amethyst?
The roebuck green one, we saw that, but I can't remember what shape it was, and it was sold at auction. I haven't heard of it since.
This one was found in a chicken house in Sinton, Texas by Paul Jankauer, and then Paul sold it back to us in Texas. Just a regular chicken house. No, not that kind. No.
Report about the chicken
I don't know.
Whose is this one?
The pie crust is.
3-in-1 or the pie crust? Joyce, is that yours?
It's mine.
What can you tell us about it?
Not a whole lot. We purchased it from an individual collector, and we've had it about 3 years and enjoyed it.
Do you know of any others around where you live?
No, we have one like that.
You have one like this?
Just exactly like that.
Well, that adds another
And
one.
we got ours from McCaslins. And Mr. Rogers has one.
I've had 3-in-1 too. 3-in-1.
You had one? Do you know if it's in there now?
The last one I had went to California. I don't know exactly what it was.
Well, we know of one in Arizona, and there's one in New York.
That's the old sort of pellet one, past 6 years.
Well, that would be another one then in Arizona. Chuck, what shape is yours? Chuck Kramer? What shape is yours?
Square,
Is it amethyst?
really square.
Amethyst?
Amethyst.
Amethyst.
Somebody said 4 rubbers. So this one Don Moore had pictured is a rarity book, but it's really square.
There was a 3-in-1 edge auction this year in Louisville.
And you don't know where it went?
I believe it's when it got open, but I'm not sure.
What's that, May 6th?
This one is ours, and we bought it from the Coles here in Blue Springs, Missouri, when they were beginning to sell out their glass to build a home. And we bought this when people were still turning up their noses at 6 ruffles. But I've always enjoyed it because you can see into the pattern. I wouldn't turn down another one, but I do like this one. I don't know of, yes I do, I know of one other one in San Diego. So that makes 7. Now how about this one?
Well, that's the one that's in Arizona.
Oh yes, that was Charles Hawks.
Before that, I believe it was.
Yes, I'm sure it did. And now how about this one?
Well, that's probably mine. I can't too much about it. I just bought it today.
Okay. And how about this next one?
But I have another one at home, so that's...
Okay, that makes sense. 8 more than ours. How about this next one?
Diane?
Yes.
I think that's mine.
This one's yours?
I bought that from the deal over in Illinois.
oh, about 2 years ago. Also have a square with this board from
Amethyst.
Perfect Square, yeah, Perfect Square.
Okay. And do you know of any others?
No, I don't. I think so.
The one on the end, whose is that? Somebody else claimed it because it's real pretty. Next to the end?
I bought that at the ICJ convention in Perrysburg, Ohio, several years ago. I don't know what year it was, but a lot of this red glass was purchased also that same auction by Ken Osmond. One of the bulls, I think he sold today for $6,000. He paid $800 for it. And then he bought 50 pieces of red, and he and Dr. Jones split two. But there was 2 farmyard bulls at that auction, and I don't know what year that was, in Perrysburg, Ohio. I also know of another square farmyard bull that was owned by one of the Pop girls down in North Carolina. It was purchased from an individual in Illinois who advertised in some county papers for Carnival glass with animals on it. He received this call, and it was a lady who said that her parents had owned it, and it's square, and she wanted $35 for it. Two advertising in a county paper for $35, and Mr. Hupop, who is an old-time carnival collector, purchased it from him, and one of the girls over there still have it, square. Smoky Cloud also has a square.
And they're amethyst? Both of those are amethyst?
They're both amethyst.
How about this next one? Who brought that in?
That's ours. We bought that one from an individual about 5 years ago. Probably the most expensive one up there. Because my wife has an index finger over here that is missing a solitaire diamond, and she still had no way I could buy that was for me to agree to buy her a diamond. She hasn't bought it yet, so I don't know what that would cost. But I will relate that about 3 years ago, we were back in Ohio, and I was inquiring about some farmyard bowls, and I talked to an Amish farmer up there, and he said that he's run across them occasionally, and I told Darrell about it, and he said he thought he could find one very easily there. I gave him my number and my address, and he's never called me. But I'll also tell you about 2 that I have heard about that were sold by antique dealers in McAlester, Oklahoma, and some of you Texans were driving south, and they had just gone to an estate auction, and they had bought 2, what they said were farmyard plates. And she knows the difference between a bowl and a plate. And she bought one, and another dealer in town bought one, and she said some Texans came through and bought the plate for her. She paid $100 for it, sold it for $300. This was back in the 60s. And she told them about the other dealer, and she said they went down and bought the other plate on the way to Texas. So there's a couple of plates down there in Texas somewhere. So it's been really good. That's all I know.
How about the next one? With the 8 buckle? Whose is the next bowl here with the 8 buckle? No? 91. Do any of you know of any more that have not been reported to Darrell? He's the one who is trying to accumulate enough information to write an article in the bulletin.
Diane?
And you have not reported these to Darrell?
Diane, this bowl that Lloyd bought from Hill, the lady come over from New Zealand with 3 of them, and the little one was St. Louis. Hill bought 2 of them. She brought 3 of them. She's a school teacher in New Zealand. And she visited our club, and I think she toured the country, and she probably visited other people too. But she brought them over, three of them.
Would you like to add anything to this?
Well, somebody told me tonight that there's a lot of those farmyard bowls that are in New Zealand. I don't know.
Alan just reminded me of one that was bought at the Texas auction by Kelly Dixon's, and it was Tom Bumpus and Longview.
There was he kind of the one in the country museum, in the square.
They haven't got that in or not. I count what they send to me.
Well, that adds to your number then, doesn't it?
That's right, yeah, we got a few now, we're up to, I don't know, so-and-so, less than 200.
Well, that throws the theory out the window of there being 50 or 100. We're beyond that. But be that as it may, they're always desirable and always bring large dollar, no matter when they appear at an auction or for a private sale.
There was 500 of them, there's a whole bunch of people don't have one.
That's right. Thank you so much for bringing your farmyard bowls. And with that, I want to conclude in saying that Tuesday, Dean and I will be married 42 years. And the years that we have spent with Carnival Glass and the people involved have been the years of most enjoyment. You're a wonderful group to be with, and since I have no family other than Dean and our son, this has always been my extended family. Thank you for sharing. Wait.